Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the Sound Alchemy podcast, the place where we talk about the music industry and how everything is going to hell. No, of course not. We're trying to be positive in this one, but from a much more pragmatic perspective. Today it's going to be a one-off, not a one-off. Hopefully it's going to be one of many, but it's the first time that we're going to be bringing a guest in. It's a friend of us. It's a good guy. He's many things. He's an entrepreneur. He's a biker. He's a cyclist, he's a photographer, he's a musician, philanthropist, and everything between. But I can tell one thing, he's not a communist. Introducing the one and only Vaughan Felix. Look at that. Trying to be as handsome as possible, as you see. Rocking those beautiful flocks.
I was like growing my hair just for this.
Yeah. He's been getting prepared for the last 3 months just to get ready for this interview. Yeah. So we're gonna be having this conversation on how do we see as musicians the whole plethora of problems that we're gonna be facing in the future. Based on what we are dealing with today. Yeah. We're talking about, or we're going to be discussing the cultural situation, the socio-economical situation, and even the whole structure that comprises what is known as the music business. Does that make sense to any of you?
Makes sense.
I went a little bit deeper than usual, but so let's begin. Felix, what do you think about the current state of affairs to begin with?
The current state of the music industry?
Yeah, or everything in general, because look, the way that I like to see this, and we're going to try to position this conversation, is how important culture is for the whole development of society. That's the first thing. But secondly, music being a cultural endeavor, how much it's going to be impacted, or it's been impacted by the current state of affairs.
Okay, so just before he gets started on it, just say hello here. Harry Maya is actually saying hello. Hello, good to have you here in the conversation.
So let's have fun.
Let's have fun.
And hopefully not get demonetized or banned.
Yes. Not too soon anyway.
Not too soon. Okay, so Vaughan, what do you think about the current state of affairs from your perspective over there in California?
The current state of music is that I feel like culture of loving music. There is no more culture of loving music. And I think that's part of the key. That's part of the recipe. How we get back there, that's what we're going to try to brainstorm. What ideas? How do we get back to loving music? And from I mean I don't have to say it. When we were young, we would post our favorite artists on our folders, we get posters. I guess you could say we were infatuated, but whether for bad or good, we were kind of infatuated. But they made really good music, right? Back then, the music touched us. So that's number one. The music touched us. We loved music. We were fanatics of the musicians, whether because they were hot, pretty, cute, or talented, or all above. But they spoke to us, whether it's racy lyrics or it's just awesome melodies. I mean, the melodies back then are to me are unforgettable, right?
Good point. Do you think that's not happening anymore?
Just a quick intermission here, because Harry Ma is letting us know that we have an effect happening to the voice, kind of like a delay.
Okay,
so we're gonna check on that. Thank you for letting us know, Harry, and we're gonna check on it. Everything you said is correct. I feel that before we used to feel more connected to music. I feel that nowadays music is way too, how can I say, it's commonplace. It's something that we don't really give the time of day to music, and there's plenty of reasons why that's just change happened. I think that part of the issue is in the quality of music itself. I think music used to be done with a purpose. It used to be done with sentiment, and it was something that people could relate to at a deeper level than simply enjoying or not. You mentioned that you held posters of your favorite artists on the wall, and that goes beyond simply enjoying the music. That is something that is a deeper connection manifested. So why do you think that happened? Why don't you think that's not a thing anymore?
It seems that the audio issue is coming from Vaughan.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
It's a little bit too loud on your end.
I've got full Wi-Fi.
Oh yes.
You think
I can hear his voice. Give me a second. I'm gonna try this. Go ahead, one. Once again.
Test. 1, 2, 3. Test.
Let me turn this off. Go ahead. Once again.
Testing.
Perfect.
1,
No,
2, 3.
Yes.
I think his voice is coming through different channels. Look at the meterings when he speaks. Speak, please, Vaughan.
Testing, left and right.
There it is. Now it's fixed. It should be fixed now.
Now it should be fixed. Please, Jeremiah, if you can let us know if it's now fixed, but I think it is. Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you, Jeremiah. So yeah, coming back. Sorry,
So
I got
sorry for the interruptions, but then you mentioned plenty of good points on what changed in the perception of music. Now, why do you think it changed like that?
I think there's, there's so many things, but we have 3 hours, right? This is the Joe Rogan 3, 4, 5, 6 hours.
Kinda.
Do you have any plans for the weekend? No.
Because we might not.
Hold on, let me order some food. I'll be right back. But so let's start from the top. Let's start from the top. The people who control the music, the record labels, the record executives. So I always start from the top and then ask myself now that I can reflect, why, if we're just talking about rock music, why does rock music that's pushed on the radio suck so bad? I mean, I'm talking, right? It sucks so bad. In my opinion, it sucks so bad.
Yeah,
why does it suck so bad? I mean, so why are they pushing it on us? Do they think that's what the people want? I don't think so. So so let's start from there. So what happened to music? What happened to rock music? I guess that's a whole other 3-hour podcast.
Of course.
Why am I using my hands? I'm saying, okay. What happened to rock? What happened to rock music? From, if I were not to be putting on my conspiracy theory hat, it's something happened with maybe the record deals. They were so bad that no one wants to sign anymore.
That's a good point.
Think about it.
That's
why? I mean, because there's so many ideas, right? These are just ideas. The record deals are so bad, no one wants to sign anymore. There are no new rock artists that have been coming out since 2007, maybe ish.
Basically,
even emo, even screamo bands, they're all gone after 2007, 2010.
Good
so
point.
15 years we've had no rock. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. That's a calculated move.
Me neither, man. And I kind of agree with you because, look, doing this whole thing with mixing music and working with musicians, I saw trends and the stuff that became popular. For example, going back to the beginnings of my career doing this, what was popular back then was indie rock and a little bit of shoegaze into the mix. It was everywhere, at least in my region, was super popular. And then little by little, it morphed into metalcore. You got a bunch of bands being quite similar to Avenged Sevenfold, and all of those bands from that genre. Then it's when I stopped, when I went full on touring and stuff, and I disconnected myself from the whole music production gig for a while. But now coming back to it, I find a completely different scene. Rock music is no longer pursued by musicians at all. There is still people buying guitars and playing guitar. That's a fact. And if you don't trust me, well, just go straight to Instagram and you'll find tons and tons of guys being faster than Amy Malmsteen. That's not the case. The point. The case is that the whole thing of getting together, learning to become a band, developing songs together, the whole thing with a garage band is starting to be lost. It's not happening that often anymore. One of the things I think is going on, first is the adoption of technology. Having access to a Logic Pro license is very cheap. I don't know how much it is right now. I think it's like $100-something. And it comes with everything you need to actually get something that sounds not bad. And actually removes the need of actually getting musicians. Because it comes with a drummer, it comes with a bass player, even a keyboard player built in. So it's already removing that social aspect of music. That's one thing. Secondly, the whole thing with the removal of rock music from the mainstream, that's where I agree with you 100%. There is something going on. In my head, and full-on conspiracy theory, and I'm going to get a huge allegedly sign going somewhere. Probably a trigger warning would be nice.
If I can find it fast
If you find it fast enough. But I think
We don't have it.
Rock music, one of the many things that it does is getting people to think, and also getting people to feel emotions that are unique to rock music, because it's a genre that is, in my opinion, I'm gonna be the most pedantic arsehole possible, but I consider rock music to be the natural evolution of what classical music used to be, and that means it's music that actually has a meaning. So rock music having that special impact on the audience kinda gets people to start to realize that something might not be correct, right? It doesn't dumbify you. In the contrary, it gets you triggered.
Is the better definition of empowering, not the one that's
it's
being
not the
used
modern
nowadays.
take of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense to you. We got some comments.
Yeah, so Joss is saying here, hey Joss, good to have you here, man. Many artists plagiarize on others, especially from musicians of the past. It's hard to come up with something new. It said every riff has already been done by Tony Iommi, and we're just elaborating on it.
Kinda.
Yeah, I think that's also a big part of the problem. I think one aspect that we haven't spoken about yet, which the thing is, it's a very multi-layered issue we're talking about here, and so many of them connect. But one part of the issue is that the musicians themselves. Let's compare, let's say, the rock and rollers from 60s, 70s to the ones from that we're being thrown at right now.
Yeah.
They used to be aspirational role models. They were badasses. They were people that I would like to be that guy.
Yeah.
And the whole thing that you were mentioning, that there are no more new bands, there are not people picking up guitars and trying to start off a rock band. I think a lot of it comes out of not having those role models as well to follow. Those ideas of, that guy's a badass, I want to be like him. How did he get like that? With a rock band. Okay, so I'm going to start a rock band.
Good point.
And of course, it relates a lot to what Vaughan said about what's prompted to us, because what started to kill that idea of the badass rock and roller was the badasses stopping being promoted and the rest starting to take over.
The question is, why did that happen? In my opinion, it's because rock music incentivizes you, but I don't know what do you think, Bon.
Well, if I were to go full conspiracy theory, we can do that. But if I were just to tone it down, man, how do I tone it down without toning it down?
You can do it
without bubble gumming,
Allegedly.
Okay, I'm gonna go off of your point. I'm gonna piggyback what you said about how rock music is like classical music, where it has all these emotions, it has a message, has a positive message.
Yeah.
But also pop music. There's really no pop music. There's no. Is there a Phil Collins? Show me a Phil Collins.
Good
Is there
point.
a Phil Collins anywhere?
No.
Just good old just yacht. Where's the yacht music? Where's the rock? You know what I mean? There's that. What do we see? We see just rap, hip hop, all that shit. Can I say shit?
Yeah. Now you did. You can.
Okay.
Well, we're 50 minutes in. You should be fine now.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So and it doesn't really invoke emotion. It doesn't invoke thought. It doesn't. There's zero feeling. It's just all about just primal carnage. Just the nastiest things you can think of. So it's.
It's kind of because you got me thinking into this Sabrina Carpenter chick that is being pushed down everybody's throat right now. I don't know if the same happens on your feeds on social media, but every time I open any of those guys, I am bombarded with Sabrina Carpenter content. She's just mid when it comes to music. I don't find her to be any attractive because it's not my kind of girl. Being frank. Because she looks like a regular girl, but I'm gonna stop there because I can get in trouble again. But the issue with her is that her music is super formulaic. It's simply another version of Taylor Swift, which is, if you think about it, another formulation of Katy Perry, which is also another formulation of Kesha. And you can go back in time little by little, until you get to probably Madonna.
Yeah, it's just the next product.
It's just the next product. And one of the things we were discussing this morning here when we were having coffee here at the studio, we were talking about Sabrina Carpenter and how her music is very, not her music, her whole persona.
Yeah.
And
her
shtick. Her shtick is kind of just being burlesque. It's more about that kind of sexy but not pornographic take on the shows, to the shows that it's okay. I have no issues with it, but the problem is that the target audience is teenagers, man. It's teenage kids, teenage girls. Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the right audience for that kind of content, and that's where I draw the line.
Look, actually, Joss is making a very good point here. I think can take on an interesting path for the conversation. He's mentioning this generation seems to be desensitized.
Good point.
Nothing moves us anymore. Attention span has shortened. Very good point. I think the whole thing about being desensitized might play a very important role here, because we're talking about in the beginning of the conversation how people used to connect to feel connected to music at a deeper level, because music allowed you to establish that deeper connection.
Yes.
And you need to be in a place to connect yourself emotionally to music as well. I think we're going to have to unplug it.
No, it died.
Oh, beautiful.
It's off.
So I'm going to pass the bone to you.
Use the camera.
But I think if the generation itself has become desensitized for many reasons, I think there's a very good justification for it, even though I don't condone it. I don't think it's a good thing that it happened, but I can see why. Now, establishing that deeper connection to music is also harder.
It is.
And that would be the solution to the problem to a degree, and is also something that needs to be worked from other angles for it to be a possibility.
Yeah.
So what do you think when it comes to the whole thing about people being desensitized to everything, and how can they form deeper connections to music and artists?
Look, I think there has been a huge the effect of social media and phones, devices such as an iPhone. It's starting to show its ugly the rear now, how much it has affected society as a whole, because it's the first time that we ever had access to infinite amount of information at any given time and in any place in wherever you are. So that whole thing is changing the paradigm on how we think and we perceive the world as human beings. So the fact that people are getting desensitized is because since they are used to having access to wherever they want on the spot, it removed the whole look for information aspect from the equation. That's one thing. And think in terms of music now. Back in the day, you need to get a CD in order to listen to something, right? And in order to have access to it, you have to buy it. Nowadays, it's not even, it's basically free. Tell me if that's not going to have an effect on people. That's the first problem.
Yeah.
Because when you buy something, you develop some form of attachment to it. Because it means that when you look at it, let's say that you bought a CD as a kid, it means hours upon hours upon hours of work, doing odd jobs as a kid. And when you finally manage to save enough to buy the freaking CD, you rock it until it dies.
Yeah.
Because it's yours. And nobody can take it away from you.
And cassette tapes.
The same place. Because the point is physical media, man.
Yeah.
Having access, having ownership of the stuff changes the whole relationship you get with the device, with the product in this case. And now that we have access to music, unlimited music, at any given time, anywhere we want, we don't have that sense of ownership.
Yeah.
And now in mind that applied to everything we do in life. We got some comments.
Yeah. So no, actually, Jeremiah is talking back to Josh, saying that's a very good point indeed. People nowadays don't listen to albums anymore. Everything needs to be fast.
Yeah, and actually, Vaughan has a take on it because you released a double album, acoustic album a few years ago, right? So, and you were like, "Damn, this is not a good move," but I don't give a damn.
Yeah, that's the whole thing that was mentioned. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Vaughan.
Oh, I was just saying, while everybody was, all of the gurus, the music gurus, were pushing single. I was like, screw that. I don't care. I'm making an acoustic album, and it's going to be awesome. And I'm going to just promote every song, and every song is awesome. If every song is awesome, then there's no problem with people listening to it. So it was going against the grain, and I think part of that, going back, piggybacking what you were saying, you said, we our hard work got us this physical media, but also the music. Going back to the music was quality, so we were cherishing something that actually touched us, that moved us, that sent us a message, that meant something. And now everything is just it feels like everything on social media is just throwaway. I forgot it. Maybe I'll hear it again. I don't really care. Yeah. But that's different layers. That's musicianship. That's the the big guys in the top, that
Yes.
social media, that's the social media giants just want you to scroll as many because they get a penny or whatever for every
course.
time you scroll past an ad. So they don't really care how long you're on there because they know every 2 posts you're going to get an ad, 2 posts an ad or whatever it is.
Good point.
So that's unfortunately that's part of the system that's breaking things down.
I agree.
And look, I take on that regard, it also relates to Harimai is saying here that he loves to listen to albums. He's not part of this generation.
That's what we like, you man.
And look, I feel that one of the things that makes we humans awesome is the pursuit for greatness. Allegedly. Is the pursuit for greatness. Okay?
Allegedly.
We have this drive to improve and to do better and to seek what's best. I think this format, that this is what we're currently seeing, the whole thing about the super ultra instantaneous throwaway stuff, I think that's unnatural. I think that's placed, that's manufactured. I don't think that's correct. That's not something that, if we left things to be as they would, I don't think that's how we would have it.
Gotcha.
I think that we have this natural pursuit for greatness, and I say you can't find greatness in a solo 2-minute track that repeats 4 times.
Yes.
You can find greatness in an album.
Yeah.
Of course, just extrapolating on something small, but you get the concept. And I think we would have the natural tendency of leaning towards that if simply things didn't push us in a different direction.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna put the fancy musician hat on for a while because I'm gonna extrapolate a little bit on the concept of the album. The album, at the beginning, there was nothing, and then there will be there was life. No, at the beginning of the during the more earlier periods of music, historically speaking, of course, the concept of the suite became a thing because you gotta justify the assembly of the orchestra. If you're gonna play just 15 minutes, man, it was super expensive to bring 40 people together and have them rocking their incredibly expensive instruments, because if they are expensive today, mind how they were back in the 16th century, man.
Yeah.
It was ridiculously expensive and difficult to pull off. So we gotta make the whole thing justifiable by creating a huge piece that would cover a good chunk of time that could provide a better experience. So when the composers began working on that concept, how can we make it more justifiable? Oh, there has to be some form of cohesion and coherency between the different tracks that we're going to be performing. Hence the concept of the suite. Then more times kicked in. How can we translate that? Because we attacked music from the old school train of thought. Well, we can record it now. Let's make an album, which is basically a concept that will be developed throughout different pieces of music that creates a body of work. That's why music in the album format makes total sense, and it has much more value than a single alone, because you can actually extrapolate and express the entirety of a concept through the use of music in a cohesive and coherent way.
And that's the whole point of music, isn't it?
That's the whole point of music. Because there are songs that are self-contained, I agree. But there are songs that requires the rest for them to be as impactful as they are.
And I think that's all correct, but I think on top of that...
Of course!
On top of that, I think the album also delivers a better experience. Because, talking about, once again, the whole thing about establishing a connection to the music, the album... A person who listens to an album is a person who stops to listen to an album. It's not someone who's going to have the music playing in the backdrop while just doing anything.
Yep.
It's actually stopping and taking the time to listen to music, because that's how a connection is going to be formed, not just by having it playing in the backdrop.
Agreed.
And I think the whole thing with albums is not only the format, it's a culture as well.
Yep. Yeah, for example, any of you guys watching, and you, Vaughan, when was the last time you bought a CD?
Oh geez, 1999 probably.
For real? No, I actually bought go ahead.
It was I think it was Linkin Park's last 2 albums, Meteora and Hybrid Theory. So
for real, that's early
2002.
2000s. Damn. For real, that's the last time. But it makes sense, man, because later on, that's when iTunes became a thing, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think slightly after that.
Yeah, 2004 was when iTunes truly became the behemoth it was. Yeah, no, I actually bought a pair of albums 2 weeks ago because I am on a crusade on reclaiming my music, because I couldn't listen to Journey one day at the gym, and that pissed me off. And then I tried to show Thiago a badass track from Whitesnake,
yeah.
and I couldn't find it anymore on freaking Apple Music. That was the last freaking drop. And from there onwards, now I'm gonna be reclaiming all of my. I'm gonna buy every single one of my freaking albums, and I've been doing it using CDs or buying the actual not compressed files directly from the artist, and doing those running that quest. I discovered that this is actually a movement, man. There are plenty of people who are starting to get pissed with the idea of not owning their shit. That applies to everything, not only music, but music was the patient zero if you wish, because they can remove the rights to the the problem with Whitesnake and Journey. How in the name of F you don't have access to those bands? Those are gigantic acts, man. Everybody knows them, and you lost access to those songs. Why? Because they're fighting to who owns. They're fighting to see who owns the rights.
Yes, copyright
stuff. So, and who is the one who gets screwed? Obviously, it's not them. It's us.
Well, that's why I only listen to Taylor's versions. Okay.
That's that spirit. and look, the interesting thing has been that there are plenty of people who are now trying to get ownership of their music, and also. One of the things that is actually shocking to me is that Zoomers are discovering the beauty of having actual physical media. Because we might think of it like, come on, man, for real. But in reality, think of this. If you stopped buying CDs in 2004, in 2002, if you were born in 2002, you would be what, 20?
2002, no, 23.
23, man.
Yeah.
Somebody who is 23 years old of age right now could have never used a CD in his life.
Yeah.
And how many of those there are? Millions, man. Totally makes sense that they are discovering physical media. It's not something to be joke upon.
Yeah. Because in the end they were victims of a circumstance and a bad timeline. Being quite honest, I think that we reached a point where the whole thing about music itself has gone to being so undervalued, and I think the thing about the CDs and the experience of music as a whole, albums and all of that, plays a huge role on how people perceive the value of music.
Yes.
And I think the Gen Zers, mostly in Gen Zers onwards, they already came to be in a time where music had less value, societally speaking, than it used to have.
Yes.
But once again, I think music having value is natural. That's why they revert to that naturally. The whole thing, and people here in the comments saying that they listen to albums, they value that. The thing you mentioning about new generations pursuing getting physical medias, I think this is simply a reversion to what's natural.
Yes, you're about to say something, Vaughan.
Yeah, go.
Oh shit, I forgot now. I was
sorry, my bad.
No.
We got comments.
I remember now. Okay,
go
for it.
So now we have to solve the problem of you have your physical media. But what happens if the manufacturers aren't making CD players anymore?
That's a good question. And actually, that's kind of a problem because the same that I'm doing with my CDs, I'm doing it with my movies. And because they're even changing stuff on all movies. I don't know if you're aware of some of those changes that happened. For example, the first to come to mind is Splash. Do you remember that shitty movie with Tom Hanks from the 80s? The one where he finds a mermaid. And the girl it's pretty. At the end, when she goes back to the ocean, of course she goes there naked, man. And there is nothing kinky about the scene. She just goes back, and you can see her beautiful rear at the end, but in a totally innocent fashion. They through the use of CGI, they cover her butt with freaking extensions of hair. They changed the movie, man.
What?
They did it.
Like her hair.
Yeah, well, you're the photographer. You know, they simply copied. You know that they went to Photoshop and they actually, frame by frame, extended the hair so it covers her back completely.
Wow.
Yeah, they went through the expense, man, because they don't want to be objectifying women. So, the Thought Police already doing that kind of stuff, man.
What if that edit as well, which I think it was
Gone with the Wind.
That shot first.
Han Solo. That was from the late 90s, man.
Well, again, it's revisionism.
It's revisionism.
Yeah.
So, since they are modifying movies, eventually they will stop you from listening to music that could be problematic in content, which I'm not. It's not that far-fetched, and the whole thing of ownership is the only solution to from that to happening, and there is a good chunk of people actually moving forward and moving towards that idea, because I, for one, I feel that I got scammed. This whole thing with subscriptions is just, if you think about it, you don't listen to all of the music in the world. It's impossible. So what's the point of having access to all the music in the world? That's the first fallacy. Secondly, do you truly care for the rest of the music that you don't like? No. Why are you paying for it? Second fallacy. And then, what happens if you stop paying? You just wasted your money because you don't know nothing. Should I continue exposing the fallacies? It's ridiculous, man. And
I think that's the biggest one.
It is, right? Because if you stop paying, all the money you threw at it, it's gone. It's lost. You have access to nothing. And they convince you to buying or purchasing this kind of service. Sorry for spinning. Because, man, you have access to everything you want and more. But I don't want more. I want what I want. So there is no point of having access to everything. It's ridiculous. And I think many people are starting to see the truth and the writing on the wall. And that also translates... Go ahead.
That's right. It's kind of like, what brings it to mind is, I have this big old crate of CDs, right? I think I put it on my social media once. I would put all of them on the floor, and I took a big picture of it. And it's like, I spent, let's say, whatever, couple $100 on it. I can't even remember it, but, let's say $300 on it. So like 30 years ago. So if you spend $300 on a streaming service, that's $10 a month, right? So for 3 years you're paying. After the third year, you're empty-handed.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I can play the Nirvana. I can literally play. I have right now Nirvana's cassette 1991 when they released Nevermind. I can play it. I had a cassette player.
Look at that. And look, the whole thing with the manufacturers. I brought the whole concept of movies into this conversation because there was a huge conundrum. Because one of the bigger manufacturers of DVD players closed operations when it comes to the manufacturing of DVD players. And it's kind of concerning because that could be the first step forward into the destruction of the format. But the benefit is that people are reaping those movies and they are turning them into actual digital files. For example, I don't have access to. I'm not gonna use a CD player to listen to those albums. What I'm doing, I hook a CD reaper, a CD burner to my computer. Reap out the files from the CD, of course, in the uncompressed version, the one that sounds correct, and I am creating a digital library, because believe it or not, there are services that allow you to create your own Apple Music without paying a dime. You run your own server and you have access to your music, to your library, like if you were rocking Spotify or Apple Music, and free. And it's easy to set up.
Nice.
So my plan is at one point, once I have a robust library, is to actually create that hosting service for my own use. That way, I don't have to pay anything for anything that I don't want to hear. And secondly, I will also get a proper device. I mind like a glorified iPod, a super overpriced iPod, on which I'm going to load my FLAC files. So I'm going to go full audio file. But why? Because I'm sick and tired of having to pay for something that I don't want. And also, it's like an attack on the whole concept of delegitimizing the beauty and the importance of music as something that holds value.
Look, one of the things about reverting to certain practices, let's say buying CDs.
Yes.
I think it's also, especially talking about times such as now, where things has clearly gone array, to put it mildly, is also, let's call it a revolutionary act.
Yes.
It's kind of is standing up to kind of oppose the current state of affairs.
Yep.
Because, okay, they want me not to own my music, I'm gonna own my music harder because of it.
Yeah, you want to steal from me? Oh no, I'm gonna own it twice.
So basically, of course, it has the obvious benefit of it. You were talking about. You're never gonna be. Your music is not gonna be taken away. It has benefits, objective benefits.
Yes, of course.
Outside of that, it has a philosophical purpose. Let's call it that, which is, okay, I don't agree with this. I do it differently.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I like that, and that's you cannot go more rock and roll than that.
Yeah.
There's a comment there.
So a few comments here. Joss, I think the future of music will have to include drugs. You need to be high to feel and enjoy music, kind of like rave parties.
That sounds like what's the name of this guy? Brave New World.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, or virtual reality goggles with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So Harry Maya is mentioning here. Wow, you still burn CDs? That's cool.
Yeah, I do.
I used to create playlists with some of my favorite songs and burn a CD as a compilation of best hits.
Oh yeah. I think you did it as well. Didn't you, Vaughan? That was super the style at the time.
Yeah. Having on your iPod a selection of your.
Man, well, I even remember that reminds me when I was trying to get to that girl, and
that's
I actually,
2005.
It is, man. It was kind of back in that day. So I actually created a playlist and I burned the CD with the music that I was using to getting to her.
So romantic.
So romantic. You get it? Yeah, but it's kind of like, damn, I feel old.
Yeah, 100% White Snake.
Totally White Snake. Yeah, it was full on White Snake, man. It was full on White Snake.
Yeah.
Slide it in.
Only the best intentions in mind.
Yeah, of course.
So I guess, there's these workarounds that we can do, but how, if it's even possible, this is just the concept is,
yes,
who at the top, how can we get people who, are the record executives with money to start a Spotify that is fair, or, you know what I mean? Like fair for the artists, fair for, a level playing field. I was watching another podcast a couple days ago on this similar subject, that it's just a level playing field, that the artists get paid somewhat a level, but the problem is the people who own these big, huge music corporations, they don't have the same thing in mind as the listener, or for even the musician.
I think I'm going to take from what you just said. I think a good portion of the problem is that the people who are running those streaming services runs them as if they were running Netflix. This is is like the business itself, the model itself is not designed with the continuity for the artist in mind. It's just there to work as an entertainment entity rather than actually a way to promote or sell a product. It's a very different mindset, and I think first and foremost, I am totally against the concept of streaming music. And now I think I make my case already clear, but also from a musician perspective, I think it's just a waste of everybody's time. Because if you pursue your music career based on streaming numbers, dude, you need to spend more money on promotion to get some money back of the machine. Mm-hmm. So because I don't have the numbers right now, but I'm reading a book. I'm gonna share it with everybody in the comments once we're done. It's a study that was published early this year. By
Discord, because we can give it.
No, I will put it on Discord. So good idea. I'm gonna put a link on Discord, so you can have access to it. But it's a study made by this chick, on which she is exposing how actually Spotify seems to be even running allegedly. Huge allegedly, AI produced playlist owned by them, and they are hiring composers that are writing music for the playlist to actually generate music for them. You get my point. You can see where this is taking us, man.
It's basically a scam.
It's a scam, man. The whole thing with the streaming service is a joke, because how in the name of F you can get access to all of the music in the world wherever you want, however you want, for $10 a month. How can somebody make money out of it? It's ridiculous. And of course, if you look at how Spotify has been run in the last decade, a good chunk of their whole business has been sponsored by different entities. Totally not USA, for example. I'm just saying, but it's been supported by external influences. I think a big label is actually the ownership, partial owner of the Spotify as a company. So that's already kind of skewing things on a certain
conflict
direction.
of interest.
Yeah, exactly, man. So I think that if you try to create a career based on numbers on Spotify, the only people who can make it is Taylor Swift, because you gotta have the big bucks backing you up. So since nobody's Taylor Swift, only her,
maybe not even her,
and her, not even her, her ilk. only that kind of product can succeed in such a platform. So what happens to the rest? I am a huge supporter of the idea of becoming a personality online, because how in the name of F, the Minecraft movie, it's a joke, it's a terrible movie, but it's making the big bucks everywhere. Why? Because it's targeting a specific demographic, giving them exactly what they want. And I'm making this comment because they actually put streamers there doing cameos, making some cameos. And I have seen some reactions on the theaters when some of those guys shows up. The kids go bananas, man. Why? Because those guys mean something to those kids. And how did they become such a huge popular act? By making themselves visible online. This thing what we're doing right now is what I think is the future, for real.
Yeah, just working upon that, because I agree. The thing is that what Vaughan was saying about leveling the playing field. I think leveling the playing field is an impossibility, because the people that has control over the playing field, they have no interest on leveling it. So the only way to have a chance is actually stepping outside of the playing field.
Parallel economy.
Parallel economy is going the route of, okay, it's not radio anymore, it's not Spotify, it's not Apple Music, it's YouTube.
And dude, we got historical examples of parallel economies happening and actually becoming somewhat successful. Back in the 20th century, like 20 years ago. No, but for real, before the fall of the Soviet Union, some of the Eastern European countries, particularly I think it was Poland, if I am correct, or the Czech Republic, what ended up becoming the Czech Republic, they actually, samizdat, if I remember correctly the word, correct me, I have my Eastern language kind of off at the moment, but they developed a parallel economy outside of the communist regime, because the communist regime controlled what you could buy, how much you can buy, blah, blah, blah. And people started to do it their own way, and they created a parallel economy that at one point was rivaling the actual official one. So if that happened under such horrible circumstances of total oppression, what is stopping something as relaxed as the music industry not to developing some form of solution in this vein? It's obvious to me. But the thing is that we got to come up with a plan.
How do you see? This is like a new concept for me. So
go ahead. Yes.
How do you see like new artists or even artists being exposed out there with in social media, or how would they see that?
Look, this our operation here on YouTube has been an experiment on how to do it. We have done many things wrong, plenty, a lot, several, to the point of it being ridiculous. It's not even funny.
Yeah, more than we can
tell, for real. But out of those mistakes, we have learned many things. One of those things is that first we gotta create a connection with the audience. There is a big difference between how we grew up aspiring or looking at those musicians in that pedestal, and how people see content creators, or not content creators, because I don't like the word for applied to music, but let's play by ear because it kind of makes sense. These kids with Minecraft, those guys, the streamers, how do they make themselves famous? By playing Minecraft and broadcasting it online. We find it to be stupid. I, for one, find the whole thing of watching somebody playing a video game ridiculous, because why would I watch somebody when I can play the freaking game myself? But I'm not the target audience, okay? And proof is in the pudding. Millions of people actually enjoy that kind of content, okay? So they found a niche, they work on it, and they became successful on it. Why nobody making music independently does the same? Get me? If it worked for somebody playing a video game and broadcasting him playing the video game, why doesn't that work with somebody who's doing something of actual value? The thing is this: nobody has developed the way to do it. We're still in the Wild West. It's about learning how to trick it. It's developing the concept.
The algorithm right now, like when I look at my feed,
yes,
I'm like, half of this is shit. I don't ask for any of this.
Agreed.
And even when I keep ignoring it, 2 days later, the same person's video is coming up on my feed. I'm like, I think the algorithm is smart enough to know, but they don't care, because
they don't
this
care.
is a guy who's got ads, and they just want the ad.
Yes, exactly. So the way the trick is bypassing that, because there is a way. There is a way. Everything works in. Everything has their own caveats, right? One of the solutions is, why don't we spend money on promotion on social media as musicians? That's the first thing, because if they can't, if
it's too expensive.
If it's too expensive, so we have
too
to
expensive
develop,
with no returns.
Exactly. We gotta develop a business model that allows for that investment to happen. So one of the routes that we're developing here, and again, everything's an experiment. It's developing products based on the music that you're producing that could serve a purpose. For example, one of the secret projects that I'm working on right now is not so secret anymore, because I'm going to be spilling things right now. No, but look, I'm developing a course a course on explaining how to use synthesizers, teaching people how to have access to synthesizers and understand them and operate them correctly without having to read manuals, because all of them follow the same principles, right? So that I'm going to develop that product that could be sold fast enough and soon enough, because it doesn't require me having to have a big name in the industry. And I'm going to invest first my money on making that product successful enough to return some money, to invest back on something else. So that money, that returns, would be invested, bam, on promoting new music, because the back catalog is just there as back catalog. It's just memories. In the current state of affairs, you need to produce music every so often. You gotta be constantly developing new music and new ideas. Not because the old stuff becomes decrepit. It's because the algorithm actually pushes the new stuff. Even Spotify at this stage, I think, is run again not only as Netflix but also as Instagram. They only promote stuff that is recently released. That's why you see many artists re-releasing their own stuff again. You got the remaster of the remaster of the remix of the remaster of the remix mastered by whoever who was that guy, because it's just pushing, and it's the same stuff, but it's just pushed forward. So again, this is me thinking as a businessman. I've been running businesses the entirety of my life, and the first thing you learn is that, okay, I want this guy to be successful. Yes, well, you need this amount of money to begin pushing. How can I get it? Well, first develop another idea that will give you and grant you some capital that you can invest on the big business, and that little by little will allow you to get to the top. Oversimplified, of course, there are many things that I will have to disclose in the way that I'm doing it, but the overall idea is that. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Vaughan.
It makes sense. One thing I heard in this other podcast a while ago, one said, he was saying, a guy does all this and he pours his heart out and he works hours and hours and hours and he gets whatever 5 likes on his videos, and he puts all this money towards his ads and no clicks, no downloads, no music purchases, no, how do we fight that? Because that's really what's happening, right? On a large scale, it's happening to thousands, probably millions of people. Everybody, all kinds of content creators who are actually creating good music. How do we get out of the beast system?
Look,
that's really what it is. Or how do we play with the beast system until we can get out of the beast system?
Exactly. I'm going to use once again my experience running businesses. Whenever you start a business, you gotta have the idea in your head that you're going to be always working at a loss for a good while. It's going to take years for the business to make some form of return of investment. So if you get disheartened by the first attempts of promoting whatever you're doing, that's where you fail. That's the first misstep. So you gotta do it expecting just loss, and you're gonna be like that for a good while, man. That's why you need to have some form of backup, financial and actually and emotional as well, because it's very hard and it's very tough on you. And you have to always be willing to, as I always say, sleep under your desk, because I used to sleep under my desk. No joke aside, I actually did it, because I put so much, everything I got into the studio business, that I had to bite the bullet for a good while, man. I spent years of my life sleeping under my desk because I couldn't afford any other place. But it paid dividends. So it allowed me to do everything I'm doing right now. So I can use my own personal experience that it works, but it's tough as balls, man. It's not for everybody, and I think the modern musician has to understand that, has to see himself as a businessman first, musician later. Because if you run your music as a business, it changes a little bit the paradigm. Because at least the perspective and the outlook of things, you expect failure, not success. Why? Because the issue with music is that it's very personal. So we get every failure, it's like, right here, man. And you consider yourself not worthy of the time of the people, or even worse, I'm not good enough. And that's when you go straight to hell. You want to say something?
Yeah, I think that it relates to what I was about to say as well, because it also has to come to swallow a little bit of pride, because let's use the whole thing about playing by the rules. Let's call the algorithm is one of the rules that now you need to play as.
I like what he said, the beast.
Yeah, the thing is that for as anti-establishment as you are, unless you want to be a hermit, you're gonna have to learn how to play ball.
Yep.
You need to be able to conform with the rules of the environment that you are part of. Nowadays, one of those is algorithm.
Yep.
And for as much as we as musicians don't want to create for the algorithm, we create for people.
Yes.
We are supposed to be listened to by people. The algorithm should be the not but an afterthought.
No.
But we can be deterred by it. So if you don't learn how to work with it, even if it is to be able to jump above it later on, is a very important part of the process. And it does come down to swallowing a little bit of pride, because as an artist you wouldn't want to create content, for instance.
I agree.
It feels, let's say, beneath you. To put it in a way, but
Peasants.
you know what I mean by it.
Yeah, I know.
And but it's part and parcel of doing it nowadays. You have to understand the circumstances, and you need to learn how to play ball.
Agreed. And it's important, I think, in this context, in the modern day, the modern musical sphere, understanding that there's so much music outside, the competition is fiercer than ever, because you're not only competing with the big bands, and you're not only competing with the small acts as yourself, you're also competing with Hollywood, with Nintendo, with everybody who is in the entertainment business, because we kind of lost. And coming back to what you said at the beginning, how we started this conversation, since the perception of music is no longer the same as it used to be back in the day. Because before you got movies, music, video games, wherever. You got it, and you have a particular understanding of each that was unique to it. Now, since everything is automatically there for you, no price tag attached, allegedly, and everything is so immediate and kind of disposable, the lines have been blurred. Because think of this. How many people, for example, actually have read a Marvel comic and calls themselves a Marvel fan just because they watch the freaking movies, man? That's not a fan. That's somebody who enjoys the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And he's a fan of the movies, but he's not a fan of the characters. That's a big distinction. And why am I making this comment is because the line between those guys are more numerous now than the guys who actually read the comics.
Ooh, way more.
Oof, by orders of magnitude. And it's a matter of time that the connotation of the word I'm a Marvel fan is going to be based on those guys than the OGs. It's just a matter of a few years. I think the station is just nothing. And the issue is that in music it already happened, because everybody has access to Spotify. So I like music. And I listen to music when I'm studying. How? Sorry for shouting, but how in the name of... It's impossible, because in my head, or for me, I'm an autistic motherfucker, but when I play music, my brain goes like that. Like, do we have the mat?
We do have the mat.
Please. It goes like that. Yes, that's what happens when I listen to music, for real. So I stopped thinking on anything else other than music. And it's my curse. It's not a blessing, it's terrible. But... I think we kind of changed the concept of what music consumption is, because it's no longer it's consumption. That's the issue. It's no longer enjoyment. It used to be something that you do in order to exact. What's the word I'm looking for? Embiggen embiggen your soul. Because I was trying to. There is a particular word that I'm looking for, but it's right on the tip of my mouth. But you get my point. It's to make you feel more than what you are, because music has this particular effect on our souls. It touches you in a deeper level than any other form of art has access to. Why? I think it's because it's super emotional. It expresses stuff that it's impossible through a visual medium or through words themselves to be expressed, but sound can. I don't know.
I have one.
Go ahead.
I have one. It's a non-beast system thing, but it's a musical thing. I think one of the biggest downfalls of modern music, from the 2000s, was the loudness wars.
Good point.
Part of this, what's this called?
Compression.
Shit. No. Sorry. When the music touches you. Part of when the music touches you. Okay, here's the music, right? Here's the vocals. The vocals went like this, and the music went like this. So now the part that actually touches you and the words mean something to you is buried in this music because they want the music so loud. Now people are like, yeah, you're rocking out to it. And yeah, what did he say? And yeah. But you don't really, if you listen to sub 2000 music, you can hear every word. Everyone knows on the top of our heads every single word of every album that we ever listened to. But now it's like, what did he say? What was the music? What was the message? The song, as mixed as perfectly as it is, and it sounds so perfect sonically, there's no feeling. It's empty. You're still like, okay, it's just the thing that I listened to for 2 or 3 minutes and it's gone. Rather than, I want to listen to that again. So the loudness wars, I think, really killed it. And if we can get back to mixing it to where, the levels of the vocals, and in addition to having good lyrics, so that those two in concert, good lyrics and understandably needs to be mixed a little bit more up here.
Well, a good news for you in that regard, because the standards for loudness when it comes to output in music has been lowered dramatically by the use of streaming services. But I mean dramatically, okay? Because right now the standard for Apple Music, I'm gonna go a little bit technical, nerdy, full-on mixing engineer now. When you're producing an album, you use a particular, without going into the details, a particular measurement system that is called LUFS. Loudness units, whatever. I don't remember exactly what LUFS stands for, but what it does, it analyzes the dynamic range, which is the difference between the highest points in volume with the lowest points in volume across time, and gives you a final number at the end of the track. Okay. Spotify, Apple Music, they expect you to release stuff at minus 14 dBs. LUFS. Okay. That number means nothing to you right now. But those loudest wars records were released at minus 6. Some of them, super, almost twice as loud. Okay, the lower, the smaller the number, the higher the volume. Okay, it works like that.
Yeah.
So, the lowering of volume is insanely dramatic. And what happens if you upload something louder than that to the system? It's gonna be sent back to you. It's not gonna be approved because they are expecting the volume of the tracks to be a certain level of loudness. You have a little bit of a leeway. You can get a little bit louder than that. But the problem is this. If you go louder than that, the system itself is going to apply compression and it's going to squeeze the life out of your dynamic range by default. Why? Because Apple Music don't want people to go deaf when Metallica kicks in with that Magnetic, the loudest record in history, mind you. So that thing is over. At least we got rid of that one, and that was a cancer. Actually, I was working this morning on an analysis of a Led Zeppelin track, freaking Good Times, Bad Times, great track, but I hated the remix version that I had to use for the analysis. It was way too loud. It loses a lot of the special aspect of Led Zeppelin music, particularly that record is the first one. There's a comment.
Yeah.
So there are a few, but I'm going
Go ahead. Let's cover them.
Okay, so let me see. Harry Maya, I agree that Spotify is like a standard, but people could pay attention to Bandcamp as well. I think that was a previous comment talking about how Bandcamp can be a good alternative.
Bandcamp is where I'm buying my records. Total recommended. Bandcamp is great, for real. And on Bandcamp is where you're gonna find the good shit. Because all the mid-tier bands that we discussed the other day that are kind of lost, they are still there, and you can buy. And the benefit with Bandcamp is that Bandcamp, I think, gets only 5% of the sale. Almost everything goes straight to the artist. So and there is no record label involved on those. So you are actually buying it directly from the guy.
Yeah.
So Bandcamp for a win.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well done, Hermaya. Sorry, I went on my tirade.
No, it is correct.
Yeah, it is correct.
So, also saying here, why music is not as interesting as watching people play in a boring game. Okay, so making a comment on, on what we're talking about.
Sorry, shit.
And look, he says here, you would need to hack the system. I don't know exactly what portion of the conversation that happened.
When we were trying to find a way to
But he says here, the matrix is big. You would need to hack the system. If you want to elaborate here in the comments so we know exactly what you mean by it, but...
No, but I think it's coming back to when we were talking about what can we do to find to sneak around.
Yeah, and his last comment here. Yeah. Maybe what the world needs is a new sound, a new instrument, a new genre, something never heard before. I agree that what we need is something new, but I wouldn't go necessarily the route of being an instrument or something like that. I think we need renewed.
How about this? We need something new. Have you tried not sucking? Have you tried writing good music instead of the slop that we're being fed with? Because that's new in this day and age. That's really revolutionary, man.
No, in a way, I think it's actually the opposite because we've seen it done correctly before. We don't need to reinvent the wheel.
No,
because again, we are always praising the stuff from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. It has been done correctly. Music has been great. We have been great.
That's why this is called Make Music Great Again.
Exactly. So I don't really think that the answer to this lies necessarily in the new. I think it lies on us understanding what was done correctly before and then bringing it now to present times and adapt it to modernity. Because now, yes, some of the rules of the game has changed, but the principle stays the same.
Agreed.
So I think, of course, now you have YouTube, and now you have algorithms, now you have all of that stuff, and that's new.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what was done correctly in the past, it still makes sense.
Yes.
Great music is always going to be great music.
Yeah, agreed. And as an example, there are plenty of guys on YouTube that actually created a career out of being YouTubers, and I'm talking about musicians. The first that comes to mind is this guy, Stevie T. He's a funny guy. He's very, very funny, and he makes comedy. He's a comedian, but he started off just as a guy with a guitar. He's very good on guitar, super good. But he's funnier than he's a good guitar player, and his comedy is very, very good because he makes fun of rock in a very, very lighthearted fashion, and he's super successful to the point of him even being invited by Dragon Force, the band from the video game.
The band from the video game?
Yeah.
For real?
That's how they're known for. That's what they're known for real.
Okay, well.
It's Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
Because I knew of them before Guitar Hero because I'm a metalhead, and everybody like, dude, you gotta listen to these guys because these guys are faster than everybody, like faster than Amy. Even the drummer is faster than Amy. Like, let's see. Yes, they are. I'm tired of it. I like it. So whatever. But they reached apotheosis after the success of Guitar Hero. The track that nobody could play, but whatever. They invited him to join the band in a gig because they're fans of him. That's already showing you that's the way. The thing is creating something that is unique to you, and you present a product that holds value to people, and people will follow that concept. Again, this is the businessman speaking. Create something of value, people will buy it. But they won't buy it if you don't promote it. So you first develop the concept, then develop the technique to promote it, and then push it until success happens. At a loss for a while. Ah, damn it.
So how do you get people to write good music? Well, okay, so in one sense, I've been hearing for many years, there's good music, it's just buried in the abyss of Spotify and everything. So that needs to, for those bands, they need, how are they going to come out of the ground a little bit? And then for new and upcoming people, or just people creating new music, they need to keep in mind, are you saying they need to write every song as this is a single, this is the one, we're going to have to do it, no fillers in this album?
Oh yeah. I look, my and this again, what we're planning on doing here. If it works, well, now you know what to do. If it doesn't, well, now you know what not to do. But it makes sense. First, we're investing quite a lot of effort and time on developing this online persona, because we gotta be seen first. We gotta develop this connection. We gotta have this conversation. We gotta be seen as somebody who holds some form of value. Even we had to develop this trifecta. We had to divide the concepts that we're exploring this channel into 3, because that was one of the huge mistakes we did here. YouTube was killing us because we had a plethora of different audiences that don't correlate necessarily with each other. The only thing in common was liking music. The problem is that we got people who joined the channel out of the analysis, the music analysis that I do on the new channel. Some others joined out of the techniques and stuff done on the mixing stuff. Some others joined out of the music alone. Some others joined out of the drum content and stuff. So we started to have issues because the algorithm is not pushing us towards anybody, because he doesn't know. The algorithm doesn't know who the hell is actually the persona that is creating around the concept of this channel. Mm-hmm. So we had to divide the stuff, and now it's working. Slowly, this channel is the one that is the one that we almost destroyed, but it's getting better by the day. And the reaction channel, for example, is growing it's going out of fashion, super successful. And it's been a month and a half, and it's already crossing the 300 something subs. 5 videos, man. Why? Because now we learned Kung Fu. Now we understand, first, if you try to put all of the X that you have to offer in one channel or in one Instagram account for that matter, the algorithm will have a hard time deciding or understanding what kind of people likes what you do. So by splitting the signal into 3, we allow the algorithm to now take whatever I put on the mixing concepts channel, and is pushed now to the audience that actually enjoys the videos. Even though that channel is a little bit slower than the other guy, is 40 plus at this stage subs. That guy has been on as well for a month and a half. 5 videos as well, but is growing because all of the videos are crossing the 500 views now. Mm-hmm. They are, and videos that we actually posted on this channel that didn't amass more than 100 views are already crossing the 1,000 on the other channels. Why? Now we understand that we have to produce content that is based on a particular niche, and regardless of, but what's going to happen to my numbers? I would like that those 300 to be on the OG, on the main channel and stuff. No, man, what they are subscribing to is you. Just a particular portion of what you have to offer, mm-hmm. But it's still you, because you're creating that channel of communication with them. So the whole premise that I'm trying to show the world is that if you create something that holds value online, people will follow you, because that's the standard today. Radio is no longer a thing. MTV is no longer a thing, because having a music video was badass back in 2010. Why? Because nobody had access to drones. Now everybody has a drone. Ask Vladimir, he has plenty. I know. That was actually a good joke. But so the shock factor that comes from producing a highly crafted music video is no longer there. Everybody has access to very good sounding tools. So even high production values in music are kind of starting to be more democratized. So it's no longer that. So what makes you unique? This connection, this conversation, having something of value, creating fan groups. Because I'm thinking in terms of what Kiss did back in the day. The Kiss Army was a bunch of rascals. Their fans, they were teenagers. And they became the biggest fan club in history. And they actually saved Kiss' ass. Mm-hmm. Because they were already going bankrupt. And it was thanks to the support and how the grassroots movement of the Kiss Army developed that they could survive that downturn, and then they became Kiss.
Yeah.
So it's not even me going crazy. There is historical facts behind it. It's just a matter of the trick is now how to do what Kiss did, and for that matter, Twisted Sister as well, because they actually survived thanks to the grassroots movement around their fans. What do you think?
No, I think that, again, some of the principles, they never change. We need to learn, and this is what we're doing here, and trying to
crack the code
on how to adapt all of that into modern times.
Yeah.
Because I think it would be a mistake to think that we need to reinvent the wheel. A lot of what needs to be done has already been done before, and we can learn quite a lot from that.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of new things that also need to be adapted here, and this is the part that nobody knows. And actually, nobody knows. It's still way too new for there to be a book written on the matter. Nobody knows. Everybody's just testing stuff out and seeing what sticks to the wall. We're on that boat as well. I think we have garnished some experience on what doesn't work, and now we're beginning to get some on what works as well. But I feel that the push for doing it independently, it definitely makes it harder. But I wouldn't even say that is the best route. I think it's the only route nowadays.
I agree.
Because going back to the point in the conversation that Vaughan mentioned, the whole thing about leveling playing field. I think having a level playing field is something that's not going to happen ever again. I think the only way to try to make a dent, there are two ways. One, you sell your soul to the devil.
Yeah.
And you
Whatever
go
entity.
Yeah. Or you brave the businessman aspect of it. You go the route of making it your own, with all of the bad that comes out of it.
Yep.
And you mentioned a few of them, and it's tough. But honestly, I think is the route to go.
It is.
Yeah.
It is the only way to survive. So let's wrap it up. Final comments, Bon.
Final comments. To make music great again, there's two things that come to mind as you're speaking right now. When you're writing out the credits for your song, what are the two things? They want the vocals and the music, right? And then any other whatever composers, but the definition of an actual song is the words and then the music. So if people can focus on the words, so if we're just going to step aside for the business side, the creation side, if you can focus, so when you're writing the credits for when you're registering your song, what constitutes a song is the words.
I agree.
And then secondary, the music. So if you keep that in mind, I need to write my music to support what I'm saying, are the words, the lyrics.
Yeah, because at the music is the emotional content. I agree.
Is the emotional. So, and then the business side is, okay, now how do I get seen in this freaking rat race, this freaking mess? What game do I have to play that is going to, suffice the algorithm and not get me buried so much? That is a whole other task. That's something that you have to learn as a musician. You have to learn, like you said, you have to be a businessman, as well as equally as a good musician, just to even have a chance. Just to have a 10% of a chance or 1% of a chance, whatever the chance is, and that I think that's how we play the beast system.
Yeah, that's the challenge. That's the challenge, because nobody said that it's going to be easy, and I for one can tell you that this is a hell of a fight, but it's a fight that can be won. But it requires dedication and some form of resilience. Plenty of resilience, not some form, actually total resilience, because it's going to be tough, and it's part of the journey. Look, what would be the point of being alive if everything was easy? And this is coming from somebody who is salty as balls, for real. I'm far from being happy, but I'm not even optimistic in any way, but I'm objective. And life has shown me that there is a solution to every problem. The only problem is that if you stop thinking, if you start thinking only in problems and not in solutions, those solutions will never show up, and you're gonna only get stuck in the problem part. So that's probably one of the most valuable lessons that I have learned in my life. So
I have a suggestion for you. If you want to make your videos more popular, just get a half-naked lady to dance around in your videos.
We've been thinking about it. Well, isn't that enough? He's already, that's enough? It should be enough. Look at that.
I'm sorry. That's just the world we live in. If you want
but I can see your point. I can see your point, man. No, I can see your point because that's one of the things that Joss was mentioning before about we're becoming desensitized. Shock factor has become no longer shocking.
Yeah.
It's so mundane now, out of what overexposure. We've been exposed to many things, to everything in a hyper mode that we, and not we, because there's a reason why we're hanging out right now, but a good chunk of people don't understand the subtleties of life itself. They go for everything has to be flashy, reptilian brain level. Everybody is kind of dumb, it's being dumbed down. And that's a problem. And I was about to quote Carl Jung, but that could get us in trouble. So, but yeah. So I think one important part that we have to play as musicians is to make by promoting and supporting the good stuff is one way to make music great again. One of my objectives with the music analysis channel is to provide people with the words they and the understanding of what they hear, because I know for a fact that they feel exactly what they are feeling because it's music properly done. But since they are not professionals in the area, they are devoid of the language or the technical know-how to understand exactly what's happening. And what I'm doing with that channel is giving them the vocabulary and also the understanding of the techniques, so they can enjoy music even further. Because when you understand what happens, not to a professional level, but for good enough, you develop even a bigger liking.
Yeah, appreciation.
You develop a bigger appreciation for the craft. And I do it because if we want to make good music to be appreciated again, we gotta first make music that holds value be appreciated first. Make sense?
Beautiful.
Yep.
Look at that. So I think that's something that every single one of us involved in this business have to do. Promote the good stuff and don't promote yourself. Let them discover you later.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, how would you? I have anything to say because you decided to kill your camera.
Yeah, he's being.
No, it's because we didn't charge it up correctly.
Okay, no, but look, I feel any goals alongside what you're saying now. I'd say a lot of us, we don't know exactly what needs to be done. A lot of this conversation was trying to cover that. We came out with some answers. There's plenty to be discovered yet. But I think a good starting point is simply not perpetuating what we already know that is wrong.
Yeah.
I think that's also a good place to start.
Yeah.
We are all kind of fed up with the current state of affairs. I think it is one of the unifying factors here.
We don't have to lecture about we hate everything in the same way.
So I think thing number one is don't perpetuate it. Simple as that. I think if you're fed up with shitty music, don't listen to shitty music.
Yes.
Don't promote shitty music. Don't talk about it. Let it die in the trenches.
Yes.
Listen to good music. Promote good music. Talk to your friends about good music.
Yes.
And the more layered solutions might pop up with time, but I think that's a good enough starting point.
It is. It is indeed. So on that note, thank you for watching. Thanks for joining. And Vaughan, say goodbye to everybody. We got a final comment there because
go ahead. Final
Before
comment here. Joss, speaking of kids, Gene Simmons charged $12,000 for one fan to be his personal assistant on tour.
Look at that. Christ, the things that every time that I talk good about Kiss, there is always something awful that they do.
And it is equally well balanced.
Why?
The thing is that the business side of Kiss is kind of insane.
It is.
So that can even be a conversation for another time
because they have done many good things, but also so many awful things that have paved the way for what we're facing right now in the music industry. Because man, it's impossible. I want to like you guys, but you make it hard.
Come on.
Give me a bone, throw them on. But whatever. So thank you, Vaughan, for being part of this conversation. Awesome. It will be awesome to have you later again with us, because there are many things that we can discuss, and being salty, it's always a welcome. So if you want to support this channel talking about music that doesn't suck, well, that's up to you to decide, but you can support this band and this effort by listening to music on Apple Music or Spotify, and also by following us on social media, such as Instagram and X, and now joining our freaking Discord, because we're now officially gamers. and we have Discord, like the cool kids.
We don't have a banner for it yet, but we're gonna put the link on the
We're working on it. We're working on it, but it's gonna happen. And you're more than invited, Bon, to join the Discord. It's kind of fun. We only started last week, so we're learning what to do with it. But everybody is welcomed for as long. And there you can actually talk about the tribe. There is no issues there. So far,
no barriers.
There are no barriers.
Wait, are you guys playing Minecraft with your music in the background? Is that what's happening?
Not yet. No, I never thought about it. That could be a possibility. That kind of sounds like an idea. So, on that note, the only thing left to remind it is that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. And remember that we'll see you when we see you, guys.